here at FYMMO, we are so excited to have Gerry Duffy tonight with us. From running marathons in 32 days, 32 marathons consecutively in 32 consecutive days, to completing and winning the 2011 UK DECA Enduroman Ironman. I could barely say that, Enduroman Ironman distance challenge, and that is known as the toughest challenge on the planet. Our guest tonight loves to challenge himself and also to challenge conventional wisdom sometimes, and he always leads by example. Myself and Louisa were looking at a lot of different speakers for this session, and it was Gerry's authenticity, you'll see it for yourself, so I won't talk too much about it. But he's written a number of books, which I'd recommend all three of them. Who Dares Runs was the first one, followed by TikTok 10, which was shortlisted as the Irish Sports Book of the Year. And the third book is The Goal Getter, which is 35 different ways to achieve your goals in life. He has spoken and worked with a number of companies throughout the world, including Facebook, Google, AXA, United Drug, Standard Life, and Coca-Cola. And this from a man who formerly, his biggest fear was speaking in public. His work has brought him throughout Ireland, the UK, mainland Europe, and he's known for inspiring his audiences with his own personal stories and with his belief system, the techniques that he uses to achieve his own personal performance and peak performance therein. He demonstrates how to set demanding personal goals and how to overcome any challenges. So without further ado, I would like us all to give a great, big, wonderful welcome to Mr. Gerry Duffy from IADT. You can press the clap button, guys. Where's your clap button? Reactions. Boom. There we go. I'm going to send you over.
Maybe I'll go and earn the clap first. Maybe I should do that. It might be a good idea. Let's see if I earn it or not.
Let me swing you into the participant place there. No, okay. There you go.
Great. Thanks, Rebecca.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. And just a quick, I might just start with a couple of questions as we journey through between now and 6 o'clock. You'll find I love to kind of work with the audience. So I just might ask a few questions, invite you to do a couple of things. First thing, I'd love to find out a little bit more about you. So I have a very simple question. If you are a student in the college, you might just type just S for student. If you work in the college, maybe just type W so that I'll know who my audience is just proportionately. So if you're a student, just type S for student. If you're working in the college, W. And if it's something else, maybe tell us what it is. Let me see, what are the results showing us? So working, student, about 50-50, probably about 50-50. Okay, great, thanks for sharing that. Just gives me a feel for maybe 60-40 students and people working in different roles in the organization. So now I'm going to invite you, if you're happy to do it, to close your eyes. Close your eyes for about a minute. If you're happy to do it, if you prefer to just look straight down at the table or the desk, that's fine too. But I invite you, if you're happy to close your eyes. And I want you to picture a goal you might have in your short-term future, maybe your immediate future, maybe long-term future. I want you to picture a goal that you have in your future. Just bring it to life in your mind now, something you would like to see yourself achieving. Maybe it's graduation from college. Maybe it's the next step after college. Maybe it's an exciting job you see yourself in, a business you might open up, a place you might travel to. Maybe it's something in your role in the organization already. Maybe it's a project you're working on, maybe a promotion, maybe the next step in your career. Maybe it's something completely different. But I'd love you now to take a screen grab in your mind of what you see. Okay. So hopefully you all have a screen grab of some kind of a vision. And now I'm going to invite you to open your eyes again. So we've been talking about this and working behind the scenes on this presentation for 4 or 5 weeks. And we've entitled it, How to Achieve Whatever You Want and Why You Should. And for me, what we've just done aligns with the fact that this is, I believe, the very first step in setting a goal. And if we don't believe the power of just creating a vision in your mind of the impact that that can have, well, then maybe you're not aware of the story of Disney World, because Disney World, quote unquote, from Walt Disney, he said, always remember that this thing you now know as Disney World started in my head with a picture of a, if you know what the picture was that he saw in his mind, just pop your answer into the chat box. What do you think was the first vision that popped into Walt Disney's mind? Does anybody? Yes, indeed. It was, always remember this thing you know as Disney World started in my head with a picture of a mouse. And that really, I believe, shows us we've already done the first step. How to achieve whatever you want is to create a vision, first of all, of what success looks like. Now, later on this flip chart, I'm going to share 3 things with you, just 3 very high-level principles. Things that, for me, definitely, I've seen huge value in these things in achieving my goals. And Rebecca was very kind to share some of the things that I've been fortunate to do. And some of the principles, I've learned so many strategies. One of the books has 35 different strategies on goal setting. But today I'm going to share 3 very high-level ones. In fact, the first one is chapter 1 of that book. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a short while. 25, 26 years ago, Rebecca would not have got in touch with me. I wouldn't have the value to bring to the table in terms of really big goal setting. I had no expertise in this area really at all. I was very stuck in my life, very stuck in terms of my ambition, very stuck in terms of my mindset and my effort levels. They were not at a high level at all. I was in a job that I was well paid, but it wasn't the most demanding job. And I wasn't overly taken with the job, if I'm being honest. I was not living a very healthy life. I was eating the wrong food 80% of the time, and I was smoking a lot of cigarettes. And at the age of 27, I had a photograph taken. And the photograph, I didn't realize it, but the photograph was a catalyst for change. And let me share with you the photograph here. So this is the photograph. This photograph was taken July of 1995. I'm the guy on the right-hand side of the photograph. Does anybody recognize the gentleman on the left? If you do, just pop his name into the chat box, because he was in a particular field. He was a very famous man. Does anybody know who he was? If you do, just pop the name into the chat box. He was the world's greatest golfer in the late 1980s. And his name was Severiano Ballesteros. When I got the photograph developed, I recognized him, but I didn't recognize myself, the guy in the white t-shirt. Because I'd left school with some level of motivation and a little bit of drive, but in this photograph, it was really for me an external symptom of how I was living my life. I was 4.5 stone heavier than when I'd left school. And I was smoking a lot of cigarettes. And so I decided to keep this photograph as a motivation. I didn't realize that became a goal setting strategy to maybe keep something in front of you that maybe drives you, motivates you. So I kept this photograph as a driver, as a motivation. And at the time, I decided I was going to lose 3.5 stone in weight. I didn't realize it, but this was another principle about goal setting. And it's to get really specific about what you want to achieve. And I brought that principle in a couple of years later with golf. So I did lose the weight. I gave myself a deadline of 18 months to lose 3.5 stone. So very specific targets, very specific deadline. Again, these things had an impact because it worked. A couple of years later, golf was a big thing in my life. I decided to apply that strategy to golf. And for 23 years with golf, my goal was to be a great golfer. But this principle had taught me, well, why not set a specific target? So I defined what a great golfer was. I said, here's what a great golfer is, in my opinion. And that became my target. And I gave myself 12 months to achieve it. This new specific target in golf, and deadline of 12 months, all clues to good goal setting. Because you see, I dreamt about this for over 20 years, about being a great golfer. But by bringing it up to the next level, I actually achieved it in less than 6 months. And that had a big impact on me in terms of goal setting. I said, oh my gosh, this could work for anything. And so that first decision, I took up exercise. When I got the photograph developed, my strategy to lose the weight was to take up exercise, to take up running. And so I took up running very soon after that photograph was taken, and I got up to a really good level of fitness relatively quickly. Like I've become much fitter, but I got up to like 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers very, very, very quickly. And it started to just, the very first day I went running, I felt better. And I remember actually capturing that feeling. I said, this is interesting now. I've gone and I put in this extra effort. I've run, even though it's uncomfortable. And I actually feel better having done it. So that motivated me. Sometimes we think motivation comes before action. But in this case, I learned that action actually sometimes can come before motivation. Because this new action made me feel better. And it motivated me to bring it into other areas of my life. And one example of that was I decided a couple of years later to go back to college part-time because I just felt that I needed to upskill myself. And that was an example of motivation coming after action, because the action, what the catalyst for that was exercise. But then that started to, when I lost the weight and maybe got a bit more confidence and started to feel better, more energy, and started to demand more of myself. And this motivated me to maybe set the higher bar in terms of going back to college and maybe demanding more of myself in the job that I had. So I was slowly becoming a new person. And I was also discovering a great reason of why I believe I should have goals in my life. I started to become happier in my life. And what that taught me was, well, the reason why I was becoming happy was because I was putting in more effort. And I realized my happiness index in life is often equal to my effort index in life, because my happiness started to rise. But there was a reason I put in more effort. That was a big learning for me. I said, well, maybe I should be putting in more effort in other areas of my life, and maybe my happiness will elevate there. So I came up with this list of 5 areas of my life. And I said, I'm going to try and raise my standards in these 5 areas. Let me share with you the 5 areas. The first one was family. I said, what if I put more effort into relationships? What about work? What if I put in more effort? You see, in the first few years of that job, I said, well, if they pay me more money, I'll be happier. I'll put more to the table. But I began to see myself as a solution rather than other people. And I said, maybe I'll raise the bar even more. Maybe I'll put in more effort in work, because if I do, yes, they might pay me more money. And my happiness, I seem to be getting more out of the job. But it's because, for example, when I upskilled myself in that nighttime course that I did, I was able to bring that skill into the job, and they paid me more money as a result. And I began to get more job satisfaction as a result. I was also kind of really getting big into running, and I was up to an hour of running, and then I stretched myself to 2 hours of running, and running became really important to me for a number of reasons. I was really into it, but it was helping me in other areas of my life, and I was developing a passion for it as well. So I said, well, maybe I'll keep raising the bar. So I went and I signed up to do a marathon, because I figured that's a really high bar to set. So I went and ran a marathon, and I also came up with 2 other things on my list where I was going to try and improve things. Contribution, playing a part in society and life, helping other people. And also I realized, well, if I'm going to achieve all these other things, I got to put my own health on the list. So that became my focus. I went and I did that marathon, and that really challenged me, but I decided to set a higher bar. And this is where maybe some of the things that Rebecca mentioned earlier on began to kind of really come up on my radar. So my next level was to take up triathlon. And I took up triathlon, and I ended up doing, you might be familiar with the term Ironman triathlon. So that's a photograph of the start line of an Ironman triathlon. That's a photograph of the start line of my first ever Ironman triathlon. I'm in that photograph, just in the center, in the orange hat. You can just make me out there. But I went and I did that, and it hugely challenged me, but I got great enjoyment. I got great satisfaction. I also, why should we achieve goals? Well, I was there's an expression, you might have heard it. It's not about the years in your life. It's about I'm sure you've heard it, the life in your years. And these years were now starting to have a much greater, I started to have a much better experience in these years of my life, where I was looking back at the end of every year and feeling, that I'd made the most of the year, had great habits in the year, even though I was challenging myself, I guess, to raise the bar even higher. And I set the bar, and it's not that you need to go maybe higher and higher. Maybe you can find new ways to do things. But at the time, I felt there was a higher bar in me. And I got this idea to run 32 marathons in 32 consecutive days. But here's the thing. It's not about running a marathon every day for 32 days. It's just a metaphor for maybe what you and I are capable of achieving. So what might 32 marathons in 32 days represent for you? Maybe it's, for example, the course that you're doing and getting a particular qualification. Maybe it's your dream job. Maybe it proves that maybe it's out there, because I showed you who I was at 27, incredibly unfit, and had a weight challenge and a smoking challenge. And yet, I was able to turn it around and do 32 marathons in 32 days. But it's just maybe shows us what we're capable of. The second, and I'm going to get into the three things in a minute, but I'm just trying to frame it so that hopefully it will all make sense to you. Why should we achieve goals? Like, why set a higher bar, whatever that might be? Well, it's also about who we might become in setting a higher bar. Sometimes in life, I remember something arrived at my door in terms of a real challenge in 2005. And I didn't want to do it. I was very challenged by it. I was very afraid of it. In fact, the words I use are, I was pathologically fearful of what was put in front of me. But I decided to do it anyway. And some of them might question, well, why have goals in our life? Why take on things that maybe might really challenge us? Like, do I really have to do this? Like, can I not just skip it or whatever? And for me, that challenge that arrived at my door, rather ironically, it happened in this room. Let me show you the photograph. It happened that was the 30 marathon, 30 days to finish line. But I walked into this room in 2005, the most terrified I've ever walked in my entire life. And some of you might say, well, why set a higher bar in life? Why get really uncomfortable? Why do something that might be a big challenge for us? Well, it might, I'm doing a talk tomorrow morning to a group of Leaving Cert students about resilience. And I elevated my resilience like you wouldn't believe as a result of walking into that room. Because I was so afraid going in to do my first ever formal public speaking presentation. I was terrified of public speaking. Now I'm not, and now it's my business, but back then it wasn't, and I was terrified. But the confidence, that changed me. And I didn't realize I was going to get this extra gift. I just wanted to get this talk over and done with. I was terrified. I hated doing it. But sometimes in life, I've discovered small keys, if we have the courage or the ambition maybe to do something that challenges us, small keys can often open big doors. Because by doing it, I also taught myself a new skill at the age of 37. I learned this new skill, Now, I didn't learn it all that day. I've been years and still am years trying to practice the skill of public speaking, but I found out I could actually do it. So that's a skill in itself, I guess. And 4 years later, I was so glad I had that skill, because the business I was in, the recession came and I couldn't make that business work. So I went to look for new ideas, and I decided to become a speaker, a professional speaker. And then I found myself in these environments, and within a year or two in places like these environments, and then brought up to another level where I started to do talks outside of the country. And let me share with you three things that I believe are the key. And that's the thing, if I'm being honest, the thing I'm most proud of in my life is having the courage and acquiring the skills of public speaking. It's the biggest achievement of my life, because it was the hardest to do. And I was speaking with somebody earlier today, and they said for them, public speaking, that wasn't a challenge for them. And that's great. They had that talent immediately. I didn't have that. So challenges are different things to different people. And for me, public speaking was beyond terrifying, beyond terrifying. I want to share with you some principles I've learned and some of the ideas I've discovered about how to achieve any goal. Because for me, I would have thought this was impossible just 16 years ago, to now be a full-time professional speaker. But I'm going to try and apply it. How might this support you with what I asked you to picture something 15 minutes ago. Now I want to remind you of what that was. So maybe just reconnect with the screen grab that you grabbed 15 minutes ago. And if you weren't with us, just if you joined us late, we invited people to think about a goal that they might have in their future, whether it's maybe graduating from college, maybe getting the results you want, maybe getting into a dream role or job, setting up your business, maybe career advancement, maybe a project you're working on, whatever it might be. So the number one rule, I believe, in achieving goals, this is the number one rule, in my opinion. It's to respect the goal. To respect the goal. I'm going back into my old school tomorrow morning. I left it 36 years ago. I left it with results in my Leaving Cert that where I got the minimum grades required to pass. Now I mean the very minimum. And I thought it was because academics was not for me. But I'm a lot older now, I'm a lot wiser, I'm not mature, because I was very immature. But what I've discovered is the reason I didn't get grades that I've since found out I actually am capable of is because I didn't have enough respect. And I'll give you a simple example of that. Like my studying was dreadful, like really bad. Like if you went into the study hall, it was a boarding school. If you went to the study hall, you would think I was the number one studier based on having my head looking down at the desk. But the quality of the study, we see two people walking out of a study hall or saying, yeah, I've just done 2 hours of study. And we think they've done the same thing. But studying is like brushing your teeth. You do it to a standard. Everything we do to a standard. And for me, I didn't listen to high standard. I didn't take notes. I didn't concentrate. I didn't apply myself. And so for me, I've discovered that the number one rule, all goals metaphorically have training plans. So it's about doing the training sessions. So if you want to get the exam results, for me, my entire business is dependent on being an impactful presenter, an impactful speaker now. And I shared with you, I used to be terrified of public speaking. So other people are incredibly talented at it without maybe having to do what I need to do. So for me, every presentation I do, I've an example of respecting the goal is I will treat every talk, including this one and including the one tomorrow and one I'm doing early next week. I would treat every one of those as if my entire business, every presentation, as if my entire business future depends on it. Is this the very best? I need to be able to look back at 6 o'clock and say, it's the very best I was capable of delivering today for this audience. And for me, very often, for a 1 hour presentation, I could be 16, 18 hours, maybe 20 hours preparing 1 hour of content. Here's the reason why. I don't have the natural talent to be able to stand up and just speak. I got to come at it a different way. I'm reminded of 26 words from an author called Gretchen Rubin, who wrote a book called The Happiness Project. And in it, she's speaking about how to master something, how to master a skill, how to master a topic, how to master a goal. She said to achieve mastery. When I heard this quote a number of years ago, I thought, oh my gosh, that's what I've been doing. Because we might look at somebody and say, I don't have the talent to do that. She says there's another way. She said to achieve mastery, enthusiasm is more important than innate ability. To achieve mastery, enthusiasm is more important than innate ability, because the single most important element in developing an expertise is the willingness to practice. And for me, that's about what are the things I need to do to achieve this goal. I remember, I know your students in college, many of your students in college, I went back to as a mature student many, many years ago to college. And one of the big things I learned about school was, because obviously I was a lot older then, was I said, Gerry, you didn't work nearly hard enough. And by the way, if you only work at the level you did when you're in school, you haven't a hope of qualifying in college. And I figured, I made a promise to myself. And I said, if I do this, the chances are I will graduate, and I will graduate at the scores I want to get if I'm willing to bring the strategy. And my strategy was what I call the 1v3 strategy. It's very simple. I said, if my fellow student has to do an hour of study, I need to do 3. If she has to do 3, I got to do 9. If she's to do 9, I got to do 27. And that for me is the willingness to practice, because if she does 3 and I do 3, there's a very good chance I won't in any way get the score I need to get. I would need to, for me, I need to work 3 times harder, and I resolve, I need to put 3 times more effort into this than anybody else. And if I do, there's a chance I'll be successful. And it worked. It worked, but it took everything for me to get that qualification. And it's not that long ago. And I mean everything. I had to apply that principle in spades. And that's an example of respecting the goals. So if you closed your eyes earlier and it was to do with, for example, graduating in college, what are the things you would be doing that would show evidence that you're absolutely respecting that goal? Is it to do with attending a higher level of classes, maybe listening actively, maybe taking better notes, maybe being organized, planning your time better? Because there's so many skill sets. Time management is one of the greatest skill sets we can learn, I believe, whether it's in business, in college, in life. The ability to manage time effectively, because your goals are achieved over a resource called time. And a lot of people say, I don't have the time. So, but you might say, but Gerry, I'm doing the best I can. So I'm going to invite you, if you're happy to do it, for actually a couple of things. I'm going to invite you to raise your, I'm going to invite you to, sorry, actually, if you wouldn't mind, just to turn on your camera for starters. To turn on your camera, if you don't mind. If you could, just even for a minute, it'd be great, because I want to do a visual exercise. So if possible, I'd love to turn cameras on. I'll give you a minute just to do that. I know there's a few people at the bottom, just audio is connecting and things, so hopefully you're getting us. So if any more cameras could come on, that'd be super if you could. And I'm going to invite you to do an exercise with me. So when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to stand up from your chair, if that's okay, first of all. I want you to stand up from your chair. And if you still have an opportunity to turn your cameras on, if you could, that'd be great. And I'm going to invite you to raise your hands as high as you can. As high as you can. As high as you possibly can. Okay, take a seat, take a seat, take a seat. Now, so I was remember I said that everything we do to standards, like handwriting to a standard, listening to a standard, eating to a standard, driving a car to a standard, taking notes to a standard. Everything we do, I believe, we do to a standard. And I was asking you to show me a standard. I was very specific. Does anybody remember the standard I was asking you to show me? Anybody remember? Because I use very specific words. You'd shout it out or pop it in the chat box.
As high as you can?
Yes, as high as you can, yes. So I want you to be really honest with me, right? So your honesty will be determined by a wave, okay? So if we did that again, and I offered you €1,000 to go 1 inch higher than you did a minute ago, give me a wave if you think you could achieve that, just an inch. Yes, okay, thank you. So what would you do? What would you do for an inch? You'd probably just shrug your shoulders, because there's an inch right there. So what if I said to you, and remember, this is all about, Gerry, I'm at my limit, like I can't study harder, I can't be better with time. That's a mindset. And by the way, we're going to mindset is number 2, because it's critical. And we're going there in about 60 seconds. Critical, because the mind drives the body. But very often we feel, I'm at my limit. So you do 1,000, I give you 1,000 euros because you did this. And then I give you one more opportunity. I'm going to give you 10,000 if you can go an inch higher on top of the first inch, 10 grand. Give me a wave if you think you could do it. Yes. Yeah. So what would you do? Here's what people usually say. I jump. There you go. 11,000 euros in your back pocket. All because you were willing to do two things. And by the way, we have evidence that we would have applied this principle many years ago. But the two things you did was a willingness to stretch and not give up, because you had to think outside the box for the second one. And I guarantee you, every single person on this call, and even if you're watching this as a recording, it applies to you too. Every one of us has this ability in us, an ability to stretch and to think outside the box to get to even higher levels. Because here's the thing, I want you just for a minute, just to go back to picture in your mind your school classroom when you were 5 years of age. When you were 5. Imagine if somebody came into your school classroom when you were 5 and invited you to raise your hands as high as you could. What would you have done instantly?
Jumped.
Just pop the answers into the chat box. Well, look, Cleena, thank you for that demonstration. Absolutely. We would have jumped, we would have stretched, we would have jumped on our friend's shoulders, we definitely would have got on the chair. And if we didn't think of it and somebody else did it, we couldn't have got up there quick enough to join them. Because at 5, we don't maybe have the barriers that we might apply later in life. And that principle of stretching, I believe we can all do it. Somebody shared with me just last week, I don't have any time. I need to do this project and I don't have any more time. And I said, okay. I said, I know you don't have any time, but if you had to finish work, so they work a normal week, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I said, if you had to finish work at 2 o'clock every week, but you still had to deliver the same quantity and quality of work, what would you do? If you had to. And straight away they gave me an answer. And I said, are you certain you would do that and it would work? Oh yeah, it would, yeah. So they just told themselves something that they said was impossible 45 seconds earlier when they said they had no time.
That's fine, I'll guarantee. See you later. Yeah.
I want to go to number 2,
I'll guarantee you.
which is getting your mind set. Getting your mind set. And I want to show you the power of the mind. Think of a TV show. An audience comes to me, 50 people, terrified of public speaking. I was there myself. I know what it feels like. And I say to this audience of 50 people, all of whom are terrified of public speaking, do you think you could go on live TV, speak just for 3 minutes? How many of them, give me a percentage, how many of them do you think they could do it? Now, they're terrified of public speaking. Give me a percentage in the chat box. How many of that audience do you think would say, Gerry, I could do that? Do you think? Now, they've come to me because they're terrified. Give me a number in the chat box. Okay, yeah, I would agree. I think it'd be a very low number. Okay, yeah, I think very low number. Okay, so now let me reframe the situation. Same 50 people come to me because they're terrified of public speaking. I want to show you the power of the mind. So I get them to imagine a hypothetical situation, purely hypothetical, where somebody very close to them gets news that's not good in terms of their health. And they're told they need to have a life-saving operation in the next month. And they got to raise $1 million or euros to pay for it. And a TV station gets wind of this one day, and your phone rings from the TV producer of the biggest show, live show on that TV channel or that TV station, and said, listen, we've heard about your predicament, and we heard you need to raise €1 million literally now for this life-saving operation. Would you like to come on next Friday night? We've got 5 million viewers on our TV show next Friday. Would you like to come on next Friday night for 3 minutes and appeal to the nation to donate money? And I asked this audience, now do you think you can do it? What percentage of people do you think would say yes? Give me a number in the chat box. Yeah. That's the power of the mind. Let me quote General Patton, a 1912 Olympian and a general in the Second World War. He said, if you're going to win any battle, You must make the mind run the body. Never let the body tell the mind what to do, because the body will always give up first. Are you hearing me okay? Give me a wave if you're hearing me okay. Yes, sorry, Rebecca. Must be something to do with your audio. I just got a message from Rebecca saying she couldn't hear me, so I'll continue if that's okay. So general pattern, if you're going to win any battle, you must make the mind run the body. Never let the body tell the mind what to do, because the body will always want to give up first. The body can be tired morning, noon, and night, but it's never tired if the mind isn't tired. So I want to share with you, and I know we possibly have some sporting students here around psychology. You might find this exercise interesting, but I do this exercise, I'm going to be doing with the students tomorrow. I do this exercise in all environments. It's my go-to exercise in terms of my own psychology. If I feel I have a challenge or an ambition in front of me that I feel challenged by, I want to show you a really simple thing I do. I'm not saying you'll find it valuable, but some people have said this has been very valuable to them. And so what I want you to do is, I want you to think of the goal from earlier on, okay, that you had in your mind. And I want you to draw 2 boxes. Just like that. Draw 2 boxes just like that. And I'm going to call this box the future goal box. And I'm going to ask you to put a number in here of how difficult do you think this goal is going to be to achieve on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, let me give you the gradient. 1 is easy peasy. 2, 3, 4, a bit of effort involved. 5, 6, yeah, I really do need to kind of put in a good bit of effort. And the higher the numbers, 7, 8, a lot of effort. 9, huge amount of effort. 10, Gerry, this is just going to be the toughest thing I'm ever going to do in my life. So I want you to give a number from 1 to 10, whatever number you find most relevant for you. With the goal you had earlier, how difficult do you think it's going to be on a scale of 1 to 10? And pop the number into that left-hand box. And you might be kind enough to share the number with me in the chat box. Okay, excellent. So I think the median there, I think I saw everything from 7 or 7.5 to 9. So I'm going to put down 8 just as the median. Okay. So I'm going to write 8. Now, here's what I want you to do. We're now going to do an exercise. I call this the inner evidence exercise. The inner evidence exercise. So I'm going to do an exercise. I'm going to get you to do something now. And I'm just going to ask you for a number at the very end, but I do not want you to share anything in between. Absolutely nothing. But I want you to do an exercise now, and I'm going to give you 2 whole minutes to reflect on it and to come up with as many things as you can. So here's my direction about what I want you to write. I want you to go into your mind, and I want you to recall things. Now, these things could have happened yesterday, last March, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 25 years ago. Doesn't matter when they happened. But I want you to go back into your mind, and I want you to recall things you have already done in your life that fall under one of 2 headings. Took significant effort to achieve. I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. And are you exceptionally proud of? Significant effort, exceptionally proud of. So it could be, maybe it's academic related, maybe getting to college, maybe it's landing the role that you're in, putting yourself forward for something health related, maybe you built a house, maybe something you achieved something in sport, maybe it's something you did for another human being. For me, boarding school, getting through boarding school was really tough. Getting a D in past maths and the leaving. I am actually incredibly proud of that because it took an awful lot. Keep my business going 12 years ago in the downturn, very proud of that. But it's different things for different people. Overcoming a pathological fear of public speaking definitely goes on my list. But I want you now, for 2 minutes, we're going to go really quiet. I want you to think of things you've already achieved in your life that took significant effort and or you are very proud of. And I'd love you to write them down, not in the chat box, just write them down on a sheet of paper in front of you.
That recording in progress.
So I'll give you about another 30 seconds. And I want you to try and see, can you come up with at least one more thing? What might you have forgotten? I'd love you to write it down now. One more thing. Okay, in the chat box, how many did you come up with? Just let me know in chat. How many did you come up with? Just give me a number. Was it 2? Was it 3? Was it 5? Was it 10? Okay, I see 8, 5, 8, 7, 9. Okay, it doesn't, the number is irrelevant. It's just personal to you. So what I'd like you now to do is, I want you to zone in the one that took the most and put an asterisk beside the one that took the most to achieve. Just put an asterisk beside it. Okay. Now what I want you to do, final part of the exercise. I want you to give it a number. On a scale of 1 to 10, using the same system we did a couple of minutes ago, I want you to rank what did it take to achieve that goal already in your life. So was it easy peasy? Was it somewhat difficult? Was it difficult? Was it very difficult? Was it like a huge amount of effort? I want you to give it a number and put the number in the right-hand box. In the right-hand box. And you might share the number in the chat box as well, please. Excellent. Thanks for all those contributions. Any more to come in? So I think, and it's irrelevant really, but I think there's definitely an average of at least 8.5 or 9 in the answers that you gave. Okay, so I'm going to write 8.5 just as the average. Now it's irrelevant really, but where do you think, and if you have an opinion on this, just pop it into the chat box. Where do you think I'm going with this exercise? What's the purpose of this exercise, do you think? Let me know when you're ready. I'd be interested to know, does anybody know where I'm going with it? What's the purpose of this exercise? Ah, okay. Yeah. You see, I believe, and with that TV show example, it shows you what we're capable of. But also sometimes when we, like if COVID definitely has had an impact on my business, but I'll give it a number. It's going to be a 7. So I then need to go into my brain, well, have I got what it takes? Because at the end of the day, like I am my business, it's my mind drives my business. So I'll go in and I'll look for evidence, inner evidence that I have what it takes. And I'll see, okay, so this is going to be a 7 or an 8, whatever it is. Have I done 7 or 8s in the past? And I have. I've got a number of 7s, 8s, 9s, and I even have a 10 in my past life. And you see, when somebody in Ireland pays us a compliment. What do we tend to do with that compliment? What do most people do with a compliment? What do you think they do? What do most people do with a compliment? Ah, thanks, Lena. Yeah, absolutely. They reject it. But you see, when you reject it, you're doing the opposite of the second strategy. The second strategy is getting your mind set. And this starts with maybe putting a value on yourself. And you see, so now I got these numbers. So here's where I go with this, is if this number is equal or higher than this number, I have absolute evidence that I can achieve this goal, I believe. But you might say to me, well, Gerry, no, this is an 8 and this is a 6. Or this is a 9 and this is a 5. And you might look at a goal and say, it's going to be 9. But you see, you have evidence of a 5. So it's not about going from 0 to 9 in pursuit of this goal, it's about going from 5 to 9. So it's actually a lot closer, a lot more achievable. You might not have to stretch quite as much as you might think. You might just have to stretch this small bit. But also, there's a very good chance you already have evidence if you're willing to pay yourself that compliment. So that's just a simple, but it has been very profoundly powerful for me in terms of getting my mind set. So I'm going to move into the third one now, and I'd encourage you to put the list away, whatever you come up with, but to never put the list away of what you come up with. And if you get my meaning there, just type I do into the chat box. So to put the list away, but to never put the list away. If you get my meaning, just type I do into the chat box. Needn't worry, it's not a marriage proposal or anything like that. Okay. Yeah, it's about keeping these achievements in the forefront of your mind to tap into them when they might serve you really well to tap into them. What have you already achieved in your life? The chances are you've got some gold there that you can now leverage. Okay, number 3. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. So I need you to be ready to go into the chat box. Okay. First question, and if your answer is yes, just type yes. Who here is into regular physical exercise? Regular physical exercise. If you are, just type yes. Okay, excellent. Next question. And how I would answer this question. So I'm looking for something really specific in your answer. I want numbers where possible. So my answer to this would be, I'd run 6 mornings a week for a minimum of 30 minutes, and in an ideal week, go to the gym twice for an hour. So what is exercise for you in a typical week? What do you do, and how often do you do it? Just let me know in chat. Excellent. So run twice, gym 3 times a week. Three short runs, 1 long run, basketball and swimming. Excellent. Lots more coming in. Walk 3-4 times a week, cardio, tennis once a week, a bit of yoga, hurling, badminton, football, 10,000 steps every second day. Love it. Okay, now here's the, thanks, just see a 14 there, 4 30-minute walks, 2 swims. So here's the most important question. And I want you to type in your answer if the question is relevant for you. But I want everybody to consciously read the words that are about to appear in the chat box, not the ones right now, but from here on, in about a minute, I want you to look back and see what people wrote. So here's the final question. I want you to give me your insights. How does exercise help you in your life? Apart from the fact that you might love badminton or football or whatever, how does it help you as a student? How does it help you as a family member? How does it help you in your role in the organization? So what are the benefits of exercise for you? Excellent. So I'd love you to spend just 30 seconds. I want you to read consciously the feedback of everybody. Just read it consciously. And then I will reveal the third strategy to achieve our goals. So I'm seeing endorphins and dopamine and de-stress, helps me think better, sense of achievement, slows things down, keeps me sane, relaxes me, helps me focus, gives me clarity. Clears the head, feel good, company of others. The very first day I exercised, I distinctly remember feeling better. Number 3 is fitness is your friend. And fitness, I didn't say running and I didn't say badminton. I said fitness. Exercise. Exercise could be disco dancing, could be anything. But it's the value, it could be yoga, obviously, exercise different things to different people. Some people exercise through sport, but for me, and there will be people maybe will not align with this, and I totally respect that, but for me, pivotal. I could tangibly show if I don't exercise versus how I do, how it affects my performance in work, how it affects if I was studying, how it affects in my relationships. I'm certain of it for me. So now it's become non-negotiable in my life. And this is just an opinion I have that exercise will help you get those results. And it's not about making time for exercise, what it'll cost you to make time. It's what it might cost us if we don't make time. So for me, exercise is one of the most important, most valuable things I do in my business week. And so that's why I make it non-negotiable. And for some people, that could be once a week. For some people, it could be once a day. It's different things for different people. You decide what's relevant for you. But exercise, what I've discovered is, it's quick calculation on a calculator, 30 minutes of exercise represents 2% of your day. And yet, I believe it can be just support so many of the rest of the 98%. I'll finish with a quote on this one from John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States. He said, physical fitness is not only one of the keys to a healthy body, it is the basis of a creative and dynamic. And I would imagine creatism, is that a word? Creativity and dynamism is part of a lot of what you do in your studies because of the nature of what you're studying. Physical fitness is not only one of the keys to a healthy body, it is a basis of a creative and dynamic intellectual activity. So there's the three tips I have. Which is the most relevant for, or did you find the most interesting for you or most valuable for you? Was it 1, respecting the goal, 2, getting your mindset, or 3, fitness is your friend? Just give me a 1, 2, 3 in the chat box. Which one was the most valuable for you? And then I'm gonna, okay, excellent feedback coming in. So 1, first person said 1, so that's respecting the goal. 2 is mindset. 2, 3 is the fitness. Thanks a million for that. Good for people saying 1, 2, 1. Yeah, brilliant. It's different things for different people. All of them. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and you know, I've gone very high level with these principles, but I believe, you know, we can get into nitty gritty of goals and principles for goals, but these kind of, for me, they're the outer layer that, because I'm a human being at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And these are, you know, the respecting the goal is maybe doing the actions. The mindset is just, you know, driving the body, and the fitness helps that. So that's why I think they're intrinsically linked. And that's why I'm keen to stay high rather than go into specific, you know, more detailed under the bonnet goal setting strategies. These are kind of principles that I believe underpin those. So Rebecca, I might just invite you to come back in maybe, and
I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to.
Because I know we're on the hour, so.
Yeah, no, we are on the hour, but I'd love to open it up if people can stay for another couple of minutes. If anyone wanted to ask any questions before we go, please feel free. You can do it live. You can just chat if you wish, or you can put something in the chat box, whatever suits. I actually have a question. Sorry to start. You were talking at the beginning about timelines for change. You're very specific into, when you're talking about the golf, when you're talking about your own, weight loss journey and all these different things. That timeline, how key is that to you in working for a big change in your life?
Well, for me, when we put a deadline on something, it gives us an extra layer of focus. Like, I'm not doing tomorrow because it's a specific talk on resilience, but normally when I do talks in Leaving Cert classes, I'll finish with the number, if I'm so I'm speaking to a group of Leaving Certs, and sometimes I'll put the number 165 on a slide.
Mm-hmm.
And when I explain what the 165 is, you can actually see the students going, oh my gosh. And then a month later, I will take 31 off the 165. So I think that's 133, is it? I think. So the next, if I'm in a class a month later, I'll put down the number 133 and they'll go, oh my gosh. And then 2 weeks later, I'll take 14 off that, whatever that is, 118, I'm not sure. And they'll go, oh my gosh. And what the 114, the 133 or the 165 relate to is that's how many days you've got until the English exam next June. And all of a sudden now they have this deadline. And it just really kind of, in a very nice way, kind of jolts them into, oh my gosh, I need to get focused.
Yeah.
And it always happens. It sends this ripple around the classroom. So that's some of the reasons why I think sometimes putting kind of deadlines really helps us kind of get focused and maybe get ready to make deeper commitments to whatever it is we're trying to achieve.
Thank you. So are there any other questions? Just that one? I don't think so. You guys go on. Anyone? Okay, I will thank you very much, and I will also pitch for upcoming events. But come on, I know what'll happen is this, Gerry. They'll send me an email and say, I meant to ask Gerry this or that or the other, and I will pass those on to you. But may I thank you? I found this really, really for myself, and I know that our audience really enjoyed it as well. But for me, there were some really strong takeaways. And actually felt very, particularly looking at the past things that have been accomplished in one's life, and to rate those. And I realized some things I never think about things like that. It's always onwards, which is really nice. But it's nice to take a pause and say, okay, whatever you're heading towards, you've probably done something similar, or you've probably attached a challenge and overcome the challenge another time in your life. And it's a great thing. I mean, all three of the points were really lovely. Respecting the goals and your mindset, and fitness is your friend. You maybe want to go out disco dancing tonight. I'm going to get the husband to get the shoes on. And again, thank you so much. And from all of FYMMO, have a wonderful, keep us informed. I think we're following you in FYMMO now. So whenever you're speaking, we can try and find you and listen, because you've got a lot to say, and we really appreciate it. Everyone's saying thank you. Excellent. Have to go. Thank you. Very interesting. Many thanks. And so the next thing coming up is the Vital Week. Vital stands for Valuing Ireland's Teaching and Learning. That's happening very soon, and we may be having some careers talks from the beautiful Dawn O'Connor, who is here tonight, because it is now time to be applying for graduate schools and that sort of thing, graduate programs, graduate schools, and kind of thinking about, I know it just feels like we just got back into college, but there is a sense of onwards here. This is your time, so you have to grab it all and drink deeply of the cup of life. So thank you, and have a wonderful week, everybody, and we'll be in touch soon. Take care. Thank you again, Gerry.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.